Look out, Google. The government is coming for you, as well as another huge website that I would take great pleasure in watching have to answer some serious questions in the court of law. But before we talk about any of that, let's have a word from our sponsors. Times are changing for gig workers and the gig economy, and there are a lot more gigs from a lot more companies than there used to be. That's why when people ask me where they can go to find resources for the gig economy, I recommend gigworker.com. At this site, you can see what other gig workers are doing and discover better opportunities from industries, companies, resources, and even a forum where you can talk with other people in the gig economy. Gigworker.com is a great resource site whether you work for Uber, Lyft, Postmates, DoorDash, TaxRabbit, Thumbtack, Upwork, whatever. There's a gig for you and there's a forum for you on gigworker.com. Gigworker.com for all your gigs. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and a few days ago on this very channel, we talked about a new feature that Google had implemented on the search engine where you could order food from Postmates and DoorDash without ever having to use their apps. The way it worked was that if you looked up a restaurant, there would be a button underneath that said order online, and Google would order either from Postmates or DoorDash, whatever one was most convenient, your food and have it delivered to you. Now, I made that video complaining that at this point, Uber was officially becoming a monopoly. And in fact, I believe Google, did I say Uber? Sorry, I mean Google. Google has been a monopoly for a long time. So has Apple, so has Amazon. These are companies that control your lives. Don't believe me? Try going out to a phone carrier and see if you consider getting a phone that is either not an Android or not an Apple. It doesn't work. For that matter, how many of you buy nothing of your stuff except any place but Amazon? Who buys 50% or more from Amazon? Like, who uses Google exclusively as their search engine? They have a monopoly, folks. They have many monopolies. And I brought this situation up because I consider this to be very, very dangerous. This was a situation where, yes, Postmates and DoorDash and even the drivers, by extension, were going to benefit from Google's massive reach by having an instant order button in the search engine. What I pointed out, though, and this was a problem, and it's still a valid problem, it's a valid concern anyway, is that if Google decided they wanted to get into the food delivery business, guess what? All they have to do is flip a switch and that order online button goes straight to a Google-owned service, and it cuts Postmates and DoorDash completely out of the equation. There is a reason these companies need you to interact with their app to be successful in the long run, because if you are finding it through Google or heck even Bing or Yahoo search engine, because I think that's still a thing, right? Maybe DuckDuckGo? I don't know. A lot of search engines out there, believe it or not. If you depend on these search engines, they control who knows how much of the market, more than 50%, then you are at their mercy. When they decide to remove something, most people never know that it's happened, and your business could easily die as a result. By the way, this is a problem with when you buy things too. You search for an item on Google, you see some items, you go to like eBay, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, whatever, to buy it. Let's say Google decides they want to be a store. Well, all those items to other sites go away. Google is now the default. Now, I'm not bringing that up to say this is why we're going to discuss the story we're about to talk about in a moment. I'm bringing it up to explain one of the highlights why I feel, and this is one of many reasons I believe Google is a monopoly, and why you should be concerned. And apparently the Justice Department is concerned because they are exploring an antitrust case. According to the New York Times, the Justice Department is exploring whether to open a case against Google for potential antitrust violations, putting renewed scrutiny on the company amid a growing chorus of criticism about the power of big tech, three people with knowledge of the deliberation said Friday. An investigation into how Google arranges search results could revive a case closed in 2013 by another government agency, the Federal Trade Commission. Oh, how the search results are arranged? Well, look no more than my little Postmates and DoorDash video from a few days ago, DOJ. I'm sure you'd find that interesting. The 5 FTC commissioners voted unanimously at the time against bringing charges against the company. Google agreed to make some changes to search practices tied to advertising. But this year, with the new antitrust task force announced in February, the Trade Commission renewed its interest in Google. In recent weeks, the commission referred complaints about the company to the Justice Department, which also oversees antitrust regulations, according to 2 people familiar with the actions. The commission has also told companies and others with complaints against Google to take them to the Justice Department. The task force has been looking into Google's advertising practices and influence in the online advertising industry, according to two people. One of the people said the agency was also looking into search practices. Most of Google's revenue comes from advertisements tied to search results. A Justice Department spokesperson, Jeremy Edwards, declined to comment, as did representatives for Google and the FTC, which does not surprise me. If you're in the early stages of this, you don't want to be commenting on it. The Wall Street Journal reported on the Justice Department's potential inquiry into Google. If the Justice Department opens a formal investigation, it will be its first major antitrust case against a big tech company during the Trump administration. True. Google, Facebook, and Amazon have come under intense bipartisan criticism, and calls to break up the firms have become a talking point in the race for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination. And it's a good thing to talk about because they do need to be broken up, in my opinion. So here's the concerns, and I believe that's the, well, no, it's not. Political leaders and consumer advocacy groups have criticized American regulators for inaction against tech companies. Google, Amazon, and Facebook have faced stiff penalties from a variety of European regulators for antitrust and privacy issues. This year, European regulators fined Google 1.5 billion euros for antitrust violations in the online advertising market, the third antitrust move against the company by European officials in 3 years. American regulators have been investigating Facebook's privacy practices, and the outcome is widely seen as a test of the nation's ability to police how giant tech firms handle user data. The FTC is negotiating a settlement with Facebook that is expected to be as much as $5 billion for failing to protect its user data from being used for political profiling by Cambridge Analytica, a British political consulting firm that had worked for President Trump's presidential campaign. Well, yeah, that's look, I'm just going to say this now because, again, I'm really not a huge fan of Trump. I bet you had they worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign, you might not have heard much about it, to be perfectly honest, because that's just kind of how they work. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. There has been a wave of new antitrust scrutiny into tech companies in Washington, including a Senate hearing in May on digital advertising that features accusations that Google engaged in anti-competitive practices. The call to regulate and scrutinize big tech also has become a consistent campaign promise among Democratic presidential candidates, even longtime friends of Silicon Valley, such as Senators Cory Booker of New Jersey and Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts brought her "Break Up Big Tech" slogan to a billboard in San Francisco this week. Quote, "Today's big tech companies have too much power over our economy, our society, and our democracy," Miss Warren wrote in a blog post on Medium this year. Why are they writing her name as Miss Warren? Wasn't she married? I could have swore she was married. Shouldn't she be Mrs. Warren? Anyway, I guess not the point. So anyway, a lot of these things, by the way, TripAdvisor is one of them. One of the chief executive of TripAdvisor said, TripAdvisor remains concerned about Google's practices in the US, the EU, and throughout the world. For the good of consumers and competition on the internet, we welcome any renewed interest by U.S. regulators into Google's anti-competitive behavior. So there you go. They're coming back. And here's the other thing. The case will probably come fast. Because according to this article, Google has few political allies and a history of complaints, so an antitrust case may move quickly, experts say. Where it says right here, if they're starting from scratch, it could take years, but the DOJ has more information. My sense is that the DOJ would really want to make sure that they can find an antitrust violation rather than just an unease that the company is too big. I've been taking companies to Washington where they've complained about Google for a long time, and there were politicians blocking it once, but the blockers aren't there anymore. I don't know if it's the Trump administration that triggered it exactly, but it could have been what broke the dam. So, yeah, this case will probably get there very fast. And just to sweeten the pot a little bit, well, Amazon might be one of them. It looks like because according to Search the Engine, Amazon's impact on retail economy, the potential inquiry into Amazon is even more vague, but will reportedly look at whether Amazon's business practices are adversely impacting competition and whether it wields too much power in the online retail economy. Well, of course it does. It has too much power in the economy in general. When you have them bragging, and this is as early as last Christmas, that hey, over 50% of Christmas gifts were bought on Amazon? No, that's bad. You should not be saying that and feel comfortable at night. So yeah, they're too big. Recently, Bloomberg reported that Amazon was purging seller, merchant, buyer, suppliers on the platform. And by the way, we will be talking about that this week. While Amazon denied the charge, this is the sort of thing that would be relevant to an antitrust investigation. It's far from clear that any concrete action will come from either of these investigations, assuming they go forward, but it's clear the political climate is now more supportive of these antitrust moves in a way that hasn't been in the past. And by the way, both Republicans and Democrats are on board with it. So you know my position on this. I believe this needs to happen. It needs to happen yesterday, not tomorrow, not next week. It needs to happen yesterday. However, I will gladly accept tomorrow or next week as part of the agreement. And this is from someone who, by the way, does get a significant amount of money on YouTube, and I know that Google actually owns YouTube, and I am therefore connected with the AdSense. However, I cannot tell you how many videos have recently been going on where my videos just get demonetized. And I've noticed that Facebook removes posts because I have very unique political opinion. I am not completely Republican. I'm not completely Democrat. I have strong sides with both parties. And it's always interesting to see which comments Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube flag and which ones they don't. They are definitely trying to influence things. And the way someone described it easily to me that made me really, truly terrified of Google is that, hey, they've got your email. They've got your operating system on the phone. They've got the web browser. They've got the search engine. Like, what part of your life are they not controlling? That's why I make it a point to use different programs for everything. Yes, I do have a Gmail account. However, with the browser, I use Edge. Oh, no, I'm not Edge. I'm sorry. I use Firefox for my browser. For the search engine, I have Bing set up. Yes, Bing. Because, by the way, Bing is actually a very good search engine. I do have an Android phone, however, I do have a classic iPod and an Apple TV. And then, of course, I've got the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 and the Switch. I don't know if that actually counts, but there you have it. So I do what I can to not give any company too much power. And when it comes to online e-commerce, I don't buy from Amazon at all. I buy mostly from Best Buy and Barnes & Noble and GameStop. And I will buy from Michael's or Staples when I need supplies. And honestly, I don't miss Amazon at all. Really don't. I know a lot of people would. However, if you're at a point where I say, hey, give up this company's products for a week and you find you cannot do it, guess what? They've got control on you. That is a monopoly. And I am glad the Justice Department is actually considering breaking them up. However, we'll end right there. I know this is a sensitive topic, and because they haven't actually filed an antitrust case yet, there's not a whole lot to discuss other than I think they should do it, and I think they should do it as big and as soon as humanly possible. However, what do you folks think? Do you agree with this? Do you disagree? I would love to know. So, comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices are getting you a little down, check out the GetUpside app below. It's totally free, but you'll get cash back on every gas purchase. Subscribe at the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channel. And if you want to talk to me or other fellow e-commerce, rideshare, whatever, check us out on the Apptrepreneur Hangouts at Facebook. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.